Thank you for joining the Missing Out podcast, where we're discovering what's missing in manufacturing and B2B marketing. Today, my guest has been John McConnell, the founder and general manager of Bull Barn Fencing. It's just amazing to see this, and to see where you've come from that 4 years ago to today is just amazing.
Oh, thank you. There was a lot of dark days, and as you know, and but we're here and we're doing well, and we're really proud to be helping the community. So it's been really great for Western Pennsylvania. It's been great for the end users, the farmers, the fence builders. We're very customer centric. So if a contractor wants something, we'll make it for him. And that's been absent in this particular industry for quite a while. It's been controlled by some bigger companies that really weren't willing to do what the customers actually wanted. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. And up until we came along, they got away with it.
No, and that's interesting you say that, because we represent a number of manufacturing clients who've been very successful at having that customization option. Right. And I feel like, if we rewind maybe 20, 30, 40 years, manufacturing in the United States or maybe worldwide was really focused on, we make one thing, we're going to make a ton of it, get our costs dialed in, and then we're going to make the market take it.
Yep.
Where we see it now is people want what they want.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's driven by the internet economy or whatever it is, but
whatever. Certainly things have changed.
It's been
a dynamic world.
But like manufacturers who have that customization component seem to be doing a lot better than ones who are just trying to do the same old. So I think recognizing that market need and then really addressing it, that seems to be a core component of some of your success. So that's great.
Yeah, it's been fun. 20, 30 years ago, you didn't care about your employees. Your customer could, just took your product and not necessarily liked it. Now, we take better care of our employees. We take great care of our customers. It's the way business should be.
Sure. No, and I think that's true. We have to be more authentic and empathetic. And if you really have that culture, it permeates every part of the business, whether it's the truck driver that pulls in to deliver and experiences out on the dock, the whole way to that end user.
Yes.
If you can perfect that experience, you can really get more loyalty from your customers.
Amen.
And employees, and that's a neat thing. And I could see it even when we took a little plant tour here before we set up. I could feel the attitude of your employees. Help first. They were there to show us things, and we mean nothing to them. They never deal with us. So, but they were just great people.
Yeah.
Well, John, one of the things I think that's been interesting to see evolve, and we've had a number of chats about this in your marketing, is when we first started, there was some consideration or more consideration, I think, looking at end users being farmers and maybe more of that retail component.
Right.
And that really hasn't played out.
No.
But you've been able to research, adapt, and pivot more to the B2B market.
Absolutely.
Could you talk about that journey a little bit?
Well, I knew that there was a need for this product. I didn't know how I would go to market. And that's really what you guys came in. I thought I was going to go more of a direct route, more to the end user. But you guys got my website going. You helped me brand. We ended up going the direction of entirely B2B.
Yes.
We have distribution. We have a secondary distribution, what we call a distributor, and then a dealer. It isn't what I expected.
Sure.
But it's certainly working for us.
Well, I think that's the entrepreneurial spirit, is you go to market, test it, see what happens. And I was actually shocked as well, because I thought originally when you started into this, and I think our first meeting was over at Clem's Barbecue.
Yes.
We met and had some barbecue, and you introduced this concept.
Yeah.
And, so that was interesting. But if for those of you who are driving through Blairsville, I'll give a shameless plug to Clem's Barbecue. It's
wonderful.
on Route 22. Stop, grab some barbecue. It's excellent.
Always excellent.
Yeah. So those of you who don't make it on Route 22, we're over here east of Pittsburgh. You're missing out. But anyway, I really thought it was going to be that end user as well. That gentleman farmer, that smaller, home rancher, old McDonald's farm. And now that we see this has really transitioned to professional fence installers and to more municipal industrial clients.
And Department of Transportation, solar farms, just all sorts of industrial, even minimum security facilities that just want a barrier to keep people out, not necessarily a prison-like, but something just to delineate their property from where you should be and where people shouldn't be.
When I think whenever we were walking the floor and as we've experienced and been aware of your product line, I think one of the things that most people wouldn't understand about fencing is how much you can do with it. Like from a standpoint of, you can have the barrier where it has the hinge, right? The flips down the whole way up to the spacing between the wires for that you can kind of say, oh, we want small critters to go through. We don't want them to go through. Could you maybe talk about how much variation there is in the product line?
So what we're seeing now is with some of the solar farms, they've really gotten away from that really tight spacing at the bottom where they want rabbits and raccoons and possums and all the small mammals to be able to go in and out. And so what we've done is we've modified our configurations to have bigger spacing on the bottom, then maybe some tighter spacing to help keep the deer and everything out, and then the bigger spacing back up at the top, so that it helps keep the costs down. It also is really specific to what we're trying to do. It just allows much wildlife through the area, and also limit the animals that we don't want to go through. Anything destructive that might damage the solar fields or whatever. So it's been a interesting, and there's a lot of great articles and topics out there, and it's a very vibrant debate right now on what should be done, and we're here to do it. If it's deemed the best thing by the biologists, we'll certainly can make the fence.
Well, that certainly adds an environmental concern, sustainability concern to it, because I grew up on a farm, and all we cared about with our fences was keeping things in.
Yeah.
Like we didn't want the cattle to get out.
Right.
But then when you look at like the industry you're operating in, the greater fencing industry, it's keeping things out, it's keeping things in, but it's also not binary. It's not just keep everything in, keep everything out. It's let some things in, let some things out, those type of things. So that was a new dimension of fencing that you introduced me to. Because I was always just like, you just want to keep everything in. And that's not necessarily true. So one of the other things I've found fascinating, and my own experience is my experience and it's limited, but the amount of height differential you can have on your fence to do different jobs, right? Because we all know deer, and certainly your Australian friend with the kangaroos, those things can jump, right?
Right. So there are looms up to 10, 12 feet, so they can make 10 and 12. Our looms were limited to an 8-foot high fence. So we can make anything from an 8-foot high. We have our looms can also, if we're making, because the loom bed is 8 feet, we could make 2 4-foot fences at one time. It certainly complicates and makes life a little more difficult for the machine operators, but it doubles our capacity, so it is a very good way of doing things.
No, that's great. And one of the other things I thought that was very interesting as we started to work with you in your branding and differentiation is we talked about the electrogalvanized and some of the different components you look at. And then we talked today about you have different raw materials. Some of it's all made in the USA, melted, made. That's certainly you've diversified a lot in your supply chain from when you started. Maybe talk about that.
Sure. So here in Western Pennsylvania, we have Johnstown Wire Technologies, Liberty Wire Johnstown, and they make an electro-galvanized wire, which is a beautiful product. It's actually much better than what typically goes into agricultural fence.
Sure.
Their main business is the utility industry. And And so I thought that would be a great way of making a superior product. But what I'm finding is that the customer is very happy with a good, high-quality Class 3 galvanized, whether it's electro-galvanized or hot dip galvanized. So we've got to use both now.
Sure.
And to hit a price point that was necessary and demanded in the market. So we still primarily use U.S.-made products. Every now and again, we'll bring in products from Spain or Qatar or wherever.
Sure.
But we really do most of our product is all made in the U.S., most of our raw material.
But I think that also just speaks to your growth. You had to expand. You had to have maybe some different quality, a premium line, a value line. And then certainly the other thing it looks like you're getting into, which I'm completely against, John, because I grew up with it. And I told my family, if we had to go back to barbed wire, I quit. I'm no longer farming because barbed wire is the worst.
Yes.
But, there's a segment of the market that needs that. And we saw some of your plans or discussions.
I know you don't like my new barbed wire machines, Bill. You hissed at me right off the bat. Yeah. We just brought in a couple of barbed wire machines. We'll have them up and running in a couple of months. And we promise not to bring any over to your farm.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because I'll leave for the day.
That's right.
I just remember my youth
barbed
always getting
terrible.
scratched.
Yeah.
It was just, but anyway, to those who love it and need it, good for them. I'm going to stay with my my woven fence and high tensile and not deal with it. So, but no, I think when we look at the quality, the other thing I think that really excited me when we started working with you guys is your commitment to quality.
No.
And we talk to a lot of manufacturers and a lot of B2B companies.
Right.
And as marketers, when you're looking at that branding and that unique value proposition, we really love working with companies that we don't have to actually work real hard at it.
Right.
Because it's a good product with quality raw materials that is going to stand the test of time. And I think you guys, everything I see and have seen over the years, you guys have maintained that core mission to quality. So maybe talk about that.
Well, I'll go. You wanted me to talk about. So I bought a farm in 1981, and the first thing I did was put up high tensile steel, Class 3 galvanized smooth wire fence, and that fence is still up today. Now, 1981 is 2024. My math tells me that's 43 years ago. I was a young man. I was a young man. But that fence is still up, still keeping livestock. There's been livestock behind that fence every day for the last 43 years.
Sure.
We guarantee our product for 20 years, but a realistic lifespan is 40, 50 years.
Sure. And that's amazing because when you think about most farms, we don't tear down fence and repurpose pasture, especially like pasture. And if you have like a rotational grazing, you're not pulling it up every year. So when you put that in there, you want that to be generational. Yeah. And because it's an investment. Yeah. And it's also, you got to clear it. You got to put the posts in, the whole 9 yards. And that's not the fun. Yeah. Right. That having the animals is the fun part.
It's a big capital expense.
Sure. Yeah. It's an endeavor. Yeah. And so I think we've always been excited about representing companies that are easy to represent because they're authentic. And you guys have certainly maintained that with your quality initiatives and commitment to producing, using good raw materials and then producing good quality products. So congratulations on keeping that going.
It's been fun.
Yeah, because as you grow, it's hard to maintain that. And especially with your growth rate, it's very hard to maintain those commitments, and you guys have done it.
Yes, we have.
So when we look at, we tried D2C, we tried going to the end consumer. That was a thought in the beginning, but then it really pivoted towards that B2B market. Maybe talk to us a little bit how you've seen that segment. I mean, I know we have the professional fence builders. We also have had, you mentioned dealers and distributors and then some DOT work. Yes. Maybe look at talk about how you've just seen the market evolve and opportunities make themselves available in those different markets and not like specific names of customers, I think, but just the theory behind it.
Well, like you said, we thought we'd do retail at first, but the end user, most of the woven wire fence is being put up by contractors. So, and most of the contractors like to go to somebody that they can buy the posts, the wire, everything from. And really, from my perspective, I wanted to be a manufacturer. I didn't really want to go retail. I didn't want to. I just found that the best way to market this product was B2B.
Sure.
And so, as any entrepreneur, you try something, it doesn't work, you try something else. And
sure.
That's it. It wasn't any master plan at all. It was pure, just a battle of attrition. And,
sure.
We just found out that what I thought my idea was not a great idea, but plan B or plan C or maybe plan D.
Yeah, as long as you don't get halfway through the alphabet, that's
that's
win,
right. That's right.
Because, John, the only real accessories that you guys offer, I mean, we saw the stable machine. Yeah. You don't do posts.
Nope.
And that's about it, right?
Yeah,
it's fence and stables.
Yeah.
And you've been successful at knowing and owning your little segment of the market, not trying to do all the accessories or be a supply house.
Right.
Just do your thing.
So what we've found is, we come back to posts, and what I found is that many of these post manufacturers have been my best customers.
Okay.
Because now because they have posts, but they don't have wire. We have wire. It's like a Reese's peanut butter cups.
Sure.
We threw the two together, and it's a winning. It's a win-win.
Is the post business more regional because of shipping? It would seem to me that fewer posts are being shipped across the country, or is that a misconception?
No, it is more regional, but there are posts coming in from Texas.
Okay.
And so, but it's primarily regional. Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina are your big.
Sure.
Southern yellow pine is your best post.
Sure.
So most of that comes out of areas that produce southern yellow pine.
Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, John, one of the things we like to do is provide value for some of our listeners, which is the marketing manager community.
Okay.
And certainly you don't wear that hat per se. Jill does that in your business. But when you think about what would be some advice you would have along, how you went from that journey from going D2C and then pivoting to B2B, is it about being willing to test and fail fast? What would be something you could say to encourage them or to give them guidance, based on your journey? Because let's be honest, in 4 years, that's not a long time to go from this was my strategy to pivoting and growing really well. That's an amazing story.
I guess just not being afraid to fail. We tried the direct to the consumer, and it just didn't. There was no traction at all.
Sure.
So I was fortunate enough to have a lot of contacts in this industry, and I just got on the phone and made some phone calls. I feel like our branding never deviated, although we did update our logos as we added capacity in different products, the different types of looms. But we just kept trying until we found something that works. It really was. You guys were behind us all the time with the literature and the branding, and the website, of course, has been a real. That was a real credibility builder. When we didn't have anything, we had a little sheet of paper that we were handing out, and you made the trifold things for us, and so that's really just been how we've done it.
Excellent.
So, no master plan. We're just out there having some fun.
Leaned into it.
Yeah, just leaning into it.
So, how much satisfaction do you get from bringing jobs back to Western Pennsylvania, rural Western Pennsylvania, and in certainly a local economy that has been decimated? I mean, since the mining and the steel mill jobs have almost all but evaporated here. I mean, certainly when you were a young man, that was all there was. And even when I was a young man, that's what everybody did around here.
Yeah.
But we have, in this building, in Indiana County, we have manufacturing jobs.
We have great manufacturing jobs, great pay, full health care, paid time off. I'm really proud that we're doing that in Western Pennsylvania. I feel like I've always felt that the American worker, and I've traveled the world all over. I've seen everything from China to Europe to almost every place, where you can see agriculture. Nobody outworks the Americans. And,
Sure.
The idea that the American worker is not what up to the world standard is a total fallacy.
Sure.
The guys here are just fantastic. They're committed, they're hardworking, and they're great. And it's great to be part of that community.
Yeah, we observed as we were on the factory floor a very active workforce.
Yes.
It's not warm out, and they were sweating.
Yeah.
I mean, they're working.
They're working.
And I loved seeing, it felt like each of them had their own wire pliers.
Yep.
Like that's kind of the tool of the trade, to be able to, I guess, clip the rolls when they're done.
Yes, that's right.
And that was neat to see because everybody had their old, like in the old days, like a cobbler had his cobbler set.
Yep.
These guys have these wire cutters, and that's the tool of the trade.
Yeah, it's a really a great set of wire cutters. It's a Nipex. It's a German-made wire cutter, probably the best wire cutter in the world. But it was interesting to see as we walked by, the one machine operator came over and helped the other machine operator, and they don't need to do that, but they're just helping their buddy. They all try to get the numbers to get as many rolls off per shift as they can. It helps them get their bonus. And,
sure.
It is a very strong team effort.
That's great.
Yeah.
You've also been able to involve some family members in the business, which is gratifying, as I enjoy that same luxury. So maybe talk a little bit about bringing not only jobs back to this area, your home, but then also having family members involved.
So when it first started to grow, my wife, who was working for CBS at the time, was senior product or data analyst or something with them, had COVID, so she had to work from home, and then would come over and help me with the books at night. And after a while, she just said, look, I'm going to quit CBS and I'm going to work here full time. So
nice.
Now we have actually a couple other people working in the office with accounts receivable, accounts payable. My sister Jill, who retired, now is working as a marketing manager. And
sure.
She is just wonderful to have working. She was a school administrator.
Okay.
So she can really get to the bottom of things, and she can be a bit demanding. I have to remind her sometimes that I'm the big brother and the boss, but
not the student.
Yeah, I'm not her student.
That explains. So that actually explains a lot, because we were on a couple of calls with her, and I didn't exactly get her demeanor, from the typical marketing manager we deal with.
Yeah.
But now that I recognize she came from school administration, 100% understand it now. Yep, that makes total sense. We'll make sure that we're not tardy, and we have our pink slips or
and make sure your grammar and punctuation is 100%.
Yeah, how's grammar spelled? It's with the AR, right? Yeah, we don't want to get in trouble. That's great. Well, that's really interesting that you've been able to do that, and I'm sure that's fulfilling as well.
Yeah.
And I think when we look at the dynamic here also, one thing that you maybe could share with is about relationships. So you built a lot of relationships in the business, in this industry over the years, and this opportunity didn't come right away.
Right.
It came later after you retired. I think one of the problems with the internet today is it tells these kids that by the time they're 25, they should already made their first million.
Yeah.
They already should, it all should have happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things take a lot of time. And you don't have to arrive at 25.
No.
You don't have to arrive at 35 or 55 or we're going to leave it there, but let's just extrapolate that to when you retired. It can happen at different stages. Yeah. But isn't a key to that the relationships you build?
It absolutely is a relationship. When it first started, I've got to say, we weren't really making the best product. I tried to start with 2 old machines. But the people that believed in me stuck by me. And they wouldn't have done that, I don't think, if it hadn't have been that we had a strong relationship, because it really, we just weren't making it. The product wasn't as good. We couldn't produce it as fast, so we're always late.
Sure.
There was a lot of frustration on my part and on their part, but because of the relationship, they stuck with us. And now when we're making great product, I remember who brought me, and
sure.
I always take good care of them.
So another interesting idea I think we should talk about in the entrepreneurial journey is opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunity, I mean, we're talking about a lifetime opportunity in fencing in Western Pennsylvania, like that came about because you were committed to an industry and performed in that industry for a long time.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be computers, the internet. There's still, I think the current generations are not seeing the opportunity in the industrial sector. And there are amazing opportunities in manufacturing, in the trades, in those areas. And you certainly have found one.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We just talked the other day. I was talking with somebody, and I said, well, I knew I wanted to be involved in agriculture when I was 8 years old, and I've always had livestock. I've always lived on a farm. I've always, when Charlie Kendall, the owner of Ken Cove, called one winter night, he said, John, I'm looking for somebody. Would you be interested in working here? And I just jumped at the chance, because it really was something that, it was an opportunity that I didn't want to miss. And so, just keep at it, I guess, is,
So you find those opportunities,
till you find that opportunity. And again, it was a relationship, was an existing relationship with Charlie. He was the guy that built my fence in 1981.
Okay.
So, so 15 years later, he calls me up and says, John, do you want to work for me? Do you want to run Ken Cove? And work at Ken Cove at the time. So, that was a relationship.
No, that's neat. When, I come from a similar background, enjoyed livestock, was thinking about being a vet.
Yep.
Ran into chemistry. We courted for a little bit, departed as friendly, but knowing we weren't going to make it.
Yeah.
And so then I went into business, followed in my dad's footsteps. But I really enjoy our clients who are involved in the agricultural space. Yeah. We work with you guys. We work with Asenso, which does agricultural tires. We work with Cambridge Technologies, which does autogenous vaccines for swine and bovine. And so I really enjoy those, because I can have conversations really rapidly for end use. And then obviously our experience with John Deere and New Holland and Honda and Still and the power equipment trade. So I've always really enjoyed that and having an understanding. And the reality is, from a business standpoint and from a marketing standpoint, with only what they say, like less than 2% of the U.S. population now lives on the farm. Yeah. There are fewer and fewer people who have that base knowledge of understanding agricultural issues, animal husbandry, food production, livestock, whatever it is. And I think we're not going to go into whether that's good, bad, or indifferent or whatever, but it's just the fact. Yeah. And we've positioned ourselves as really being able to communicate with that group of companies and be able to service them, because we understand their business a lot better than people who are just clicking on it, doing the website, doing the Facebook, doing whatever. We can kind of relate to them. And that was one of the things I think that was nice when we met that time at Clem's, when we first got together. You didn't have to tell us a lot about fences. Yeah. It was just more like, okay, here's my business challenge, opportunity. Okay, you're making okay. And we were able to get right to it. Right. Which I think served us both well and was more efficient.
And I guess I was a bit surprised when the marketing guy that I thought I'd be having a meeting with also could talk about cattle and milking and... it was immediate click.
Yep. Yeah. So that's always neat to find. I guess they say birds of a feather flock together or whatever those statements are. Yeah. So John, when you think about this journey and what you're doing with this business, I just want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
And your team. What an excellent facility you've created here, an excellent team, an excellent company, and what a great representation in the market. I'm sure your business partners, the family team, employees, clients are just thrilled with your progress. So I just want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you. Thank you. You've played a big part in it. So I appreciate all the efforts you and your team have supported us all the way down. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, John, thank you for joining us today. This has just been a delight. I would love to run this back again, maybe in 10 more years. We'll see where we are, right? You and I are both going to be much more safe, but that's okay.
I'll bring my walker as I walk.
They'll wheel me in here and we'll be good to go. We'll probably just have our AI avatars schedule a time and they'll show up for us. But, no, John, thank you so much for the time today, and we really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.